Hey, welcome back, Covenant Podcast people and other dudes that are joining in with us. We've actually been doing a lot of different podcasts. Last year, we spent a lot of time talking to people in actual ministry and their impact on our community and beyond. And this year, I kind of had a brainstorm, and Ryan went with it with me on maybe getting some coaches in here that are impacting young people in different ways in a completely different setting. Well, I've always believed that coaching was a ministry, and I know that everybody doesn't necessarily agree with that, or even as kind of implement that into their program. I believe a lot of the local coaches around here do, uh, and so today, got one of my buddies in here, Jaden Angle. One of the reasons I picked him was because number one, I've known him since he was a little kid. My family and his family kind of grew up near each other. My grandfather, believe this or not, coached his mom in Little League when way before any of us well, not way before I was, but way before you were. And so he also grew up kind of in our youth group here, and so he's kind of been like a young man that I've really been watching and been proud of. Coached his older brother in football in middle school for a couple of years, and one of the most hard-nosed kids I ever been around in my life. Fell in love with his heart, even though back then he didn't probably say about 10 words in 2 years. He's an amazing young man. And so I brought Jaden. I believe he's a up-and-coming coach. Last week we talked with Nikki Bizo, who'd been in it for over 30 years. Today I'm going to bringing a guy in here that's just getting started, really. And so how long you been coaching?
I just finished year 5. I'll be moving into year 6.
That's awesome. So. And in the middle of all of that, got married and was real active in a church in town, and just a all around good guy. And how's the wife? How's the family?
She's doing good. She takes care of me. She's at the hospital right now in Charlotte. So.
Yeah. She's a nurse, and y'all do have a dog or something, don't you?
Yes, we have 2 dogs now. Yeah. Those are our kids. So 2 dogs.
Yeah. So that's cool. Well, anyway, I guess my first thought is, because I remember as a little kid thinking, we all do when we're little, we're going to end up in the NFL or Major League Baseball, and he was a baseball player as well. But why coaching? Why'd you get into that? Because you know you're not going to be rich, right?
I do know that. I do know that. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just go back to how I got into teaching and coaching. Was just a passion to lead and mentor. The football piece was, I've always loved football and enjoyed playing it and be a part of some great teams at Lincolnton. But I was actually working in sales in Charlotte right after I graduated from the University of Charlotte, and me and my wife just kind of talking, and I just felt like there was something always pulling me to dive in and mentor young men and women, and just help them grow into people who would impact the world. And I think some of that came from what God did in my life through men like you and Aaron around here being a part of that. And then my brother Clint Darsh, who's been a real good leader in my life, and then ministry and college. Kind of God did a lot in my heart to show me my purpose in life, to make much of Him whatever I do. And when I graduated, I thought, to get a job, and I work hard at what I do, and I just always felt that calling, and was being told in my life that teaching and coaching might be something. So as I explored it, when it happened, it felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And in 2017, I joined Lincolnton, and ever since I've loved the decision. Not always easy, but I've loved what I do, and pray that God uses me there to impact kids, learn how to be men, and also get to be around a game of football that I love.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like you don't really work, right?
sometimes,
except for the in-class part, which is really can be intense. I know I taught school for 3 years, and I was able to coach football at the middle school for 7 or 8 years, and high school sports is a completely different animal than middle school. I don't know how you guys do it with all the time constraints. So how do you balance that with the wife and the family and the 2 dogs?
Well, my wife does a good job helping me do that, but I think it's just communication, and just supporting each other. my wife supports me in what I do, and being able to give me time to love on the kids and to really work to do my best at teaching and coaching, and so that support, but also guarding our time together.
Yeah.
When we have time set aside, make sure I guard that
Yeah.
and really love on
Keep doing
her.
them date nights, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it.
Nick and I talked about that a little bit last week about how much Kim, his wife, had stood in the gap for him, and even when they got to raising their family and the kids, and the 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 way football and coaching is set up is not very comforting times. It's like not easy times. It's always late in the afternoons, Friday nights, Sunday afternoons, different things like that. He's talking about the value of having a wife that had your back on that. And I see your wife, because I've known her. My one of my daughters played. His wife was a great athlete. Played college basketball, I believe.
Yep.
She was a very good basketball and volleyball player at Lincolnton. And one of my daughters played with her, and so it helps that your wife is the best athlete in the family. But no, it really
She'll
helped.
love that.
Yeah, she will. Make sure, hey, Chelsea, make sure you get this. No, it helps that every Friday night I see her at the games with you, and I think that's a big deal. That she's invested in the
Right.
kids as well.
Right. And it does. It helps out. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy because of the time you talked about is it's late throughout the end season, practices, you not get home till 6:37, and then your Thursday and Friday and Sunday, those days, Thursday and Fridays all day. I
Yeah,
mean, but Sunday's coming back out after church to prepare for the next week. And so I think the biggest thing is, although football is year round, I'm doing football stuff right now with the kids, and but when you're out of season, make sure you make that time and guard it, like I said. But my wife, she supports me, she loves on me, and she draws me back when I need to be
oh yeah,
pulled back. So
yeah, that's good.
so
Yeah. Well, I think she's an amazing young lady, and I've always loved her as well. Uh, so intentionally, I know it's different, and we're talking to mainly public high school teachers. It's totally different. I found out even when I was coaching middle school, and that was 15, 16 years ago. Uh, there there are kids that really will engage you in spiritual conversation. There are kids that have no desire whatsoever in engaging you in spiritual conversation, and you have to balance the two because you don't want to disrespect anybody in any way, shape, or form. But every kid I ever coached wanted to be loved on, and wanted to matter, and wanted to be affirmed. And I kind of feel like that's one of the things we get to participate in. So, yeah, what do you found that to be
I
true as
mean,
well?
you pulled the words right out of my mouth with loved on. They all want to be loved, and as I think about what I do, in the building, teaching, and on the field with those players who take that extra commitment to play football, is one, love on them. Know first that I love God, and that's where my love for them and what has happened in my life is given me a passion to love people. And so no matter if they want to hear when I speak about Christ or me just handing them giving them a hand in time of need, that's what I want to do, is make sure they know that they can come to Coach Angle in all situations.
Amen.
And I'm going to continue to point to who is true life for them and for me and for us as we're speaking. So, but love, and that's one of the ways that I show that is I will do a lot of things for these kids and make sure that they're taken care of, and just basic needs,
Yeah,
or if they're in a time of hurt and need to talk to
yeah,
somebody. Um, so I really feel like that's a big focus. You said love on them, and maybe that's something that I've learned from mentors like you and people in my life. But that's the way that I do and approach it. Is at the very least, I'm gonna be hard on you and disciplined throughout the game of football and help you learn how to be responsible and grow. But you're gonna realize that I love you in all of it.
that's right.
In the
That's
hard
good.
times, the good times, I'm gonna celebrate and I'm gonna mourn with you.
Yeah.
So
Well, I used to have this saying I used all the time when I was in youth ministry. I don't even know where I picked it up, but I said it so often that one of my youth kids back in the day cross stitched a little and framed it for me. It said that nobody really cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's kind of been a mantra in football. But I want to tell you something that you probably already know, but uh, in the many, many years that I spent coaching, which was 20 plus years, if you add it all together, whether it was girls softball, Optimus,
Mhm.
middle school, helping with you guys
Yeah, yeah,
with the chaplain thing. It's probably more like 35 years counting the chaplain thing, but just even coaching, I would tell you this, that those young people that you love on, never forget that, I, and I can't begin to, I lost count of how many weddings I've done for kids I coached in middle school football, and
yeah,
and how many of them call me even now when they got something going on with their family or their grandmother's sick or anything,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so more than you know, those impactful moments are mattering, and I don't think it can be fake either. And I think that's also important. If it's not real in you, it's not going to be real to them. And I see that in you. That's probably why you're sitting in that chair today. Be honest with you, uh, I feel like that I see that in you. I see a lot of me. Honestly,
yeah,
I'm not. I'm not giving myself any credit. He's twice the football coach I will ever be now, and I promise you, I watch him on that front as well. But I just want you to know, man, they'll be back. They'll be back 15 years, like the kids I coached with your brother, and I'm like Tay and
yeah,
CJ and Demery and you.
yeah,
I missed coaching
yeah.
him by 1 year.
One
I
year.
went into ministry. I went in full time ministry here the year he was getting ready to come through the middle school, and so I missed him by 1 year. But anyway, I just want you to know, man, those kids are paying attention.
I appreciate that, and it really that mantra that you you hold so tight is true, and we see it a lot of times, and there's walls that are built up. These kids go through a lot, and they build up walls, and they don't want to hear from you, and unless they trust you and
Right,
know that you care about them, you have
right,
their good in
yeah,
mind. And so that's kind of one of the biggest challenges is doing that, is breaking through, and working so hard, for these kids. And even though sometimes you might be working harder for their success than they are, but
right, yeah,
you're doing that for a reason,
that's right,
an ultimate goal,
yeah,
so that they do grow into to husbands and fathers that protect and care for their families, and then go make a difference
yeah,
in life for God's glory.
amen.
And you've got to see that, so that's
I
definitely
have,
inspiring to
I have,
me, to continue on and to keep doing what God's called me to do.
yeah, and I think it's also interesting, that I think they know where we're coming from. Like I found that to be true with the kids the Lord brought into my life. It had to be a sermon every day. Uh, I think every single kid that I ever coached knew that I came from a Christian's perspective, and they respected that, and I felt like there was a hunger uh, in them more than they knew, and I had a besides coaching, I remember in the classroom I had such an advantage. I was a eighth grade English teacher. That's probably shocking to
Yeah.
everybody that's listening to this, and I don't know that I was a good English teacher. Uh, but what I did know that I was good at is loving kids because I had been loved and had been mentored by some amazing people. And we had this thing, like, all these different standard course of study things that you have to do.
Mhm.
One of the things I had to do was get a writing sample from all of my eighth grade kids in the first week of school when I was teaching. I don't know if it's still true today, but what I would do is I would generally go tell them my story. Uh, there's no rules and regulations against me telling you my story, how it looks from my perspective, and then I would look at them and say, "Now I want to know yours." And I was literally blown away at the number of kids that would write 3 and 4 page papers about their life. And I would remember going back to um, uh, in the middle of the year when I'd see something going on with that kid, maybe with grades or socially, I would often go back and pick up that paper that they wrote me at the beginning of the year, and I would read them again, and it would remind me of what that kid really was dealing with because we don't know,
We don't.
we always envision that people
Mhm.
live life like we lived, and the truth is, very few people live a life like I lived.
Yeah.
You had a lot of support as well. So how do you go about gauging that? You just is there something that you do to just kind of pay attention, or maybe there's some things that give you some indicators, you know?
You know, you mentioned the classroom, and the classroom to me is another place that, as I'm teaching, specifically my marketing and sports marketing stuff,
Yeah,
but I'm teaching young souls and people who, are people, not just a number in the classroom there to get their grade to a certain level. So the biggest way that I approach it, or the main way that I approach it, is um, I tell them from day one that I care about them. And a lot of times that doesn't mean anything from the beginning,
yeah.
but that starts to show.
When it stays consistent. Yeah,
And I always ask them about extracurricular activities they're involved in. And my wife sometimes loses some time this way, or she'll do it with me to enjoy it. But we'll go watch other athletes compete, not only my football players, but
or go to a chorus
the
concert or
chorus
whatever.
concert, the band competitions, and all the other extracurriculars. Because I want these students to know that there's somebody here that cares for them. And I'm not the only one that does that at our school. Our school is amazing. We got a
Yeah,
bunch of amazing teachers. But I start that way, and want them to know I care. But it's also those intentional questions about, you know, well, how have you been?
how
And
are you today? Yeah,
sometimes that, it's real empty or to the point, but sometimes it's they want to talk. And you
yeah,
say you have that writing lesson where they tell about themselves.
yeah.
Just asking them that, and depending on how they answer, mm, mumble a little bit, or they really want to talk about something great that's happened in their lives, or they don't want to talk. I know how then to approach that student in the day, in the coming weeks, and then maybe even get them to open up and see if there's something that I can help with or assist them with, and just small advice
I
here
know.
and there
That's good stuff.
in the classroom as
Yeah,
well, not just with my football players.
yeah.
So
Well, I think every school in our county is special and unique, with the people that that are there in that school that you get to reach, and
totally agree.
Lincolnton is absolutely, and because I'm the chaplain there, and because I taught there,
Yeah.
it's a very unique, uh, group of people that are assembled in that hallway every single day. When I was teaching school, this is like um, it's like one of those school sentences.
Yeah.
Well, they count subgroups in schools,
Mhm.
like white is a subgroup, African American or black, whatever, Spanish, mixed kids, every one of these people go into different subgroups, and different nationalities or different subgroups. And I think when I was at the middle school, we had the second most subgroups in the state of North Carolina in one school. And I thought, wow, it's so Lincolnton High School is a very unique place that you get to meet all different kinds of people. There's not a walk of life that you can
Mm.
imagine that doesn't walk down that hallway every single day. So how do you prepare as a white teacher? I mean, how do you do that? I mean, like, what do you do different, special?
Well, first I'll just and I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased towards Lincolnton. It's home to me. It's been a part of building me into who I am, and by God's grace, I'm there being a part of helping shape what is Lincolnton High School. But I call it a beautiful place. I love going in to Lincolnton with all the diversity there. But I first I try to go with the mindset of that I don't understand everything that they might go through,
Mhm.
but I want to. I
Amen.
want to be there and understand that. And like we talked about previously, building that relationship and trust allows me to do that, and then be a better teacher, a better coach, a better mentor to them
Yeah.
by doing that. And so, I love people. I
Yeah.
love people of all color and nationalities. I love people, and I want to be a part of people growing into really these students growing into the adults they will be,
Amen.
hopefully successful adults
Yeah.
who make a difference wherever they're at, um, and to let them know they can,
Yeah.
no matter what race they are, no
Yeah. What
matter where
exactly.
they come from,
Right.
that you can break down any barrier. You might need a chance, you might need some help along the way, like
Right.
all of us
Yeah.
need, but you can, and I want them to know that they can.
Yeah.
And so that's just in short one
Well,
of the ways
you've had
it's
your own
helped.
life, I watched you as an overcomer. I remember riding down to Charlotte a week or two after you went to school down there, uh, and just being proud of you.
Mm,
The overcoming kid. Grew up like very much like I did. Honestly,
mhm,
uh, we weren't broke, but we weren't rich by any means.
yeah,
We had a lot of love and support around us, and big family, and
mm,
but I always thought you were an overcomer. I really have always thought that about you. That you just kept battling, 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 and you always had this dream. And I see you walking
yeah,
that thing out. And I
yeah,
guess that makes me really, really, really proud of you because I see that you're living the dream, so to speak.
yeah,
You could have been a lot of different things. In fact, his major, when I remember this about you, you probably don't know I remember this, but when he went to Charlotte, he was in engineering school, so he's a very intelligent young man. And some people think, well, you got a ability maybe to start out in engineering but end up teaching school. Why?
yeah.
And the reason of that is simple. Is I think it's that love thing and that relationship thing that's in you.
Yeah, and I would agree and give a lot of that to, you talked about my family, and my mom is one of
She's
the most
amazing.
loving people that I probably will ever meet. My
Yeah,
mom, and then even my grandma who passed when I was in college, but my mom loves people so well, and did anything and everything for us, even when it might not have been the richest family around.
yeah.
But she made us know when we left the house that we had a loving mom who was extraordinary, and
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 spoke
still is
life into y'all.
to this day, still is to this day. Would do anything for us and for other people. I mean, it
Amen.
wasn't just for us. And as you know, I have a lot of brothers who are not by blood but have lived and been a part of my
Oh,
family.
I've never been. I've known him since he was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I've never been to their house that your mom didn't have another kid that was
Mm,
poor or homeless or broke living with you.
yeah,
What kind
and
of impact does that have on you
and
when it
and
comes to coaching,
you know, and I get to see that part, and those people are friends, brothers, to me, and that's because of my mom's heart to not leave anybody behind. And
Yeah,
and and again, I stress that we didn't have a lot of money, all this money for her to do that.
yeah.
She just made way
She
because she
did it
knew it was
anyway.
the right thing to
Yeah,
do, and she knew on her heart that she cares. And I think that's just kind of speaks to my family,
agreed.
her parent, my grandparents, and
Who I knew
the
well
ways.
as well, with, I helped with their service, and I was at your house, the morning your grandmother passed. I
Mm,
remember,
yeah.
being over there, and, no, I wasn't there when she passed, but I came immediately afterwards because of just my love for that family, man. It
Hmm.
was amazing, amazing family. So, now you've been in it long enough that you've had some kids, graduate out of the program, and some of them go to play other places. Some of them just go to school somewhere else,
Hmm.
and some of them are working.
Just work.
How do
Yep.
you 'cause my impact, my emphasis last week with Nikki was, like caring for kids on and off the field,
Right.
and that can't stop when they put on a tassel and walk across the
No,
stage.
it doesn't.
How do you go about keeping up with them afterwards?
Well, one is I'm a teacher, so I try to keep the connections with the students at a minimum throughout school. But
Yeah,
as they finish and graduate, and I let them know that I'm here for them, a number, and Facebook approval, things like that, to be friends. Uh, for the fact that's just one more step that I want to see where they're going, and if they ever need anything,
right.
they know I'm holding to what I told them 2
Mhm.
years ago, 3 years
Yeah,
ago, 4 years ago. And little things like this past, it's been about a year, but on my birthday, I've had a few kids reach out. These are not football players, but a few kids that I've had in class and just built those relationships. Hopefully, help give some advice. Tell me happy birthday and how much I meant to them just a short year later or 2 years later, and things like that. It just reminds me of why I do what I do,
Yeah.
and those things. And then my football players who are doing things in sports after in college or in a job. I try to stay connected, and anytime they see me in the community, I ask them how they're doing. Do they enjoy what they're doing? And so I've been able to see that over the past 5 years now, and um, hopefully, Lord willing, continue to be a part of many, many, many more students coming through Lincoln's lives, and know that they got a person to come back to. Know they can call on me for things.
Amen.
They can let me know where they're being successful, and I'll celebrate those things with them as well. Not
That's
just
cool.
time of need, but that's some of the ways in my short time that I've seen just kids being reaching out or
Yeah.
seeing me out in public.
That's cool.
I don't want them to hide from me or
Yeah.
be scared. I want them to know that
This
they
guy
come
believed in me, is
yeah,
pulling for me,
that's right.
So
That's
I've
right.
always said, yeah,
I'm in their
if
corner.
you can get everybody on the same end of the rope, you can take the rope somewhere. And
Yeah.
you're one of those guys that gets on the end of the rope with those kids and pulls with them to see them be
Mm.
successful at most of our high schools. In fact, the reason I'm doing these things is because I know when these podcasts are released, I want the people in our community to know who who our coaches are, who our teachers are, who they're entrusting their kids to, that they're not just in it for a paycheck so they can have summers off, which, by the way, if you're a coach, you don't that doesn't
It's
relate
not a
to you.
thing.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
not a thing.
So, but I just feel like it's a big deal for them to get to know the impact. And so most of our schools in the county now have like a kind of what I do, like a chaplaincy kind of thing. And um uh but I also noticed something about you last year that you probably didn't think I was paying much attention to, is that you do a little bit of a mentor program yourself on Thursday afternoons. That's separate even from what I do. It's voluntary, and it's out there for the kids. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's just another thing that as I've been a part of it, been a part of my growth as a coach and learning, in coaching. We'll always be learning, but that was on my heart, and another way to that the Lord put on my heart to just let the kids want to talk about something real. And I
Yeah,
tell them, we're not going to talk about anything more important than this. And I approached our head coach, Coach Bird, and I told him my heart. And I just asked, I said, would you mind 10, 15 minutes after Thursday practice? Just let me get them out there in the stands and just chop up some real stuff with them.
hmm,
And great coach. He allowed me to do it. He's all on board and just supported me in that. And so I wanted to kind of do a study that I reached out to actually Clint Darson, talked about some things he's done in the
hmm,
past with teams, and I kind of used an outline that he had, but it was the pursuit of greatness,
yeah,
and in every one of them, I asked them the first day we started about this pursuit, and I think we all are pursuing greatness in some level, in some fashion in our
yeah,
lives, and we want to excel at something. And I told them that I want to walk through this journey with them each week. And some weeks we couldn't get it in, but the goal was to show them the pursuit of greatness in light of who they are based on how God created them.
all right,
Starting from how we all were created in His image, to putting away things and being different, setting aside things to be different.
wow,
Whether that's on the field and in our lives. And as you know, football is one of the
yeah,
greatest teachers of life, and
yeah,
and I'll say that in sports, in my opinion, the greatest teacher
yeah,
of life, just because of all the things that the kids have to go through, everything from the practice to the performance on a Friday night, all these ups and
wins
downs.
and losses,
Yeah, all
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
and but we kind of took that into a Thursday after practice. They give me 10 to 15 minutes to just dive in and share a little bit about this pursuit of greatness
that's
from
awesome.
what the Bible says,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and and, and looking to the one who truly is the
Yeah.
GOAT, that term thrown
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
And ask some questions, and some respond, some come out there just because they have to,
Yeah.
and sit there, but they all
Yeah.
get to hear. At
Yeah.
some of they all get to hear. And I end it every time with telling them that any questions, anything going on, I'm here. And on this pursuit, I want to be there to help you obtain all that you want, and understand that more so than what we teach you on that football field, more so than what you learn in that classroom, and everything throughout the week, that Christ is a solid rock for you to stand on.
Yeah.
And if you truly want to pursue greatness and what you're created for, this is what God's word says about it.
Yeah.
Then you start to find the fullness of joy, true life, water that
Yeah.
doesn't run out, living water. And so
Yeah.
I that was just on my heart, and it's a
Yeah.
passion of mine, and Lord willing, be able to continue with the next group and the next group, um, with Coach Bird's
Yeah.
approval, and
That's
and
right.
he allows me to do that,
I
and
do appreciate
encourages
those
me to do that.
those guys over there. I've been doing, I think 16 years. This will be my 17th year, I think, of doing that chaplain thing, and I can't stress the importance of. I started out doing it with Coach Clonger, now Coach Bird. Man, how those guys will get in behind you, and we obviously you you don't go out there and tell kids if you want to be on Lincolnton's football team, you got to come to Jaden's greatness speech or
Yeah,
Mike's devotional time, whatever.
yeah,
That's not something it's not mandatory, but it
right,
sure is
right.
an amazing thing to watch how many of those kids want to know how to be
Mm,
great. They really do. I found too, that some of the most getting involved in them and some of the most practical things. We do stuff like helping them buy some gloves or something,
mhm,
or
yeah,
making sure they got food this weekend,
mhm,
because it's amazing how many young people in our county. One of their favorite things about coming to school is they get lunch.
yes,
They
yes,
may not have it at home, and
yep,
we get a lot. We get not, I wouldn't say like 2/3 of the school or anything, but there's a fair number of kids that we get to run into at LinkedIn that they come to school because it's a safe place and it's a place where they get
absolutely,
food and they get loved.
absolutely.
And so anyway, man, this guy, in my opinion, is and not just the heart of who he is. You can see that on camera, but he's talented coach too.
Mhm,
I pay attention to. I love to watch how people lead in general because that's my thing. I love leaders, and I tell people all the time in our servant leadership here at church. One thing about leaders is leaders lead. You know,
mhm,
and you lead, and I watch you lead. I watch you lead other coaches. I watch you lead our young people, and I believe you're a very very talented coach as well. And I'm really proud of the effort that you put in. When I said a while ago that he's far advanced coaching wise than me, I'm telling you, there's some X's and O's and some understanding of coaching in general that this guy has that not everybody's willing to put the time in to go after. And I admire that in you. And so I want to thank you, man, for coming
wow,
today.
I
And
appreciate
I
it.
want to give you kind of a chance to maybe with some parting wisdom, like close it out, and I'll throw it to you to close us out here. So
Yeah, and it's just a blessing, and I look back, and when you asked me to come on this, the last thing I'll say is just looking at God's grace in my life. And I'm not up here boasting about all the things that I've been a part of, and but I'm boasting about what God has done in my life, and I truly believe that my life being found in Christ, and that is what motivates all the things that I do, even in my pursuit to be the best coach that I can be around these kids, but also a mentor. It's all from God, and
man,
I'm blessed to be a part of it. And I don't always do it right. I
yeah,
don't always do it
yeah,
right,
me
but
too.
by
Yeah,
by God's grace, I ask for forgiveness, and go to his word to change my heart, and go to
yeah,
mentors to help guide me in this path, and I don't see myself doing anything else. I truly do love where God has me, and hopefully will continue to have me for the
Yeah.
future. And so that's why I continue to grow as a coach, to grow as a man of God, and enjoy the ride, and just trust God in that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me. And
Oh man, I'm tickled, proud of you, and all those other good things, But I appreciate you coming by today, and because I think it's really important for our community to know that the kids that go in our high schools are in good hands, that they
yeah,
really are cared for, and it's bigger than the court or the field.
yeah,
It's bigger than the classroom. It's bigger than which school you go to. They're
hmm,
getting loved on, and they have some true mentors, and true people that love those kids unconditionally and are making sure every need is met. So thanks. I love
all
you.
right.
You know I love you with my whole
Love you,
heart.
man.
And
Appreciate it.
so I appreciate you guys joining in with us, and we will catch you next week with another coach. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks.